Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us. So we're just about to get started. Again, if you have any questions for Pamela, please just pop them in the comment section and we're happy to answer them.
Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to this live stream from the La Palma eruption. So we're here with Pamela. Pamela was a GEO intern like the rest of us in 2014. So Pamela, could you just introduce yourself and why you travelled to La Palma?
Yep, so hi everyone, I'm Pamela Campbell from the University of Glasgow. And yep, like I was introduced, I was the very first year of the GEO Tenerife interns. I was on La Palma in 2014, working on the soil diffuse degassing surveys for a volcanic hazards internship, working on the Cumbre Vieja 1949 fault with Involcan. So it's great to be here witnessing the eruption. So yeah, I travelled over just as a tourist to see the eruption.
Great. And yeah, so could you go into a bit more detail about what you did with GEO intern and sort of what your experience was like?
Yeah, so the very first year I had never been to the Canary Islands before. Volcanology was what I knew I wanted to do, so when I kind of jumped at this opportunity when it came along. I spent a few days training for the soil diffuse degassing, so that was CO2 flux, and working with all the measurements with Involcan. I was working with Fatima and Samara, and we were over in the Cumbre Vieja fault zone, just behind us, kind of further down the ridge there. We were there for 3 weeks, working on the volcanic hazards program.
And how did you find working here? I know coming here, you know, I've never been to a landscape like this before, never worked, let alone worked in one, so, you know, how was that for you?
Oh yeah, spectacular. There's so much to see, even on the kind of drive up here on the way, you know, all the features you can see, all the basaltic layers, all the kind of dikes, and you can't beat Canary's geology.
No, no. Yeah, it's a bit of a playground, isn't it?
Yes.
So yeah, like, what were your sort of first feelings coming back here? You know, doing the monitoring and then seeing, obviously you working with Involcan, to then see what Involcan are doing and like similar to the sort of things that you did, and yeah, how does that feel?
Oh yeah, it's fantastic to actually have to witness an eruption in my lifetime. It was something that we were monitoring at the time, and something that's been ongoing, and all the interns have been involved in over the years. So yeah, fantastic to be back here and actually see something like this. I never kind of thought I would, so very exciting.
And is this the first eruption you've seen?
No, back in 2015 I was on the Glasgow University Tanzania expedition, and we summited Old Lengai, and there was an erupting spatter cone inside the crater of the volcano. So yeah, very, very small scale, very localized, kind of coming out the crater wall, so nothing quite as spectacular as this. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, so I guess how does that compare then, you know, or can it be compared?
Both equally as exciting.
Yeah.
As exciting. Just when I'm slightly less exhausted after climbing up Aldonio Lengai to witness.
Of course.
So I've got a question that I'd quite like to ask you about that. How does it feel kind of coming here, and the atmosphere that you've experienced when arriving in La Palma, having worked here back in 2014? Like, how did you feel when you first came? Like, what were your thoughts, your reactions? The noise of the volcano for us was something that took us all by surprise. So could you explain your emotions, I guess, at the time?
Yeah, well, I wasn't kind of sure what I would feel. So yeah, we got off the ferry yesterday and we drove up. It was all very kind of thick with ash. The roads were very thick with ash. We're driving through like, was this a good idea? But after seeing it, and yeah, it's really exciting, but also really quite heartbreaking. We met a lot of local people. We're staying in Tazacorte, not too far away, and there are people there that have been affected. So yeah, it kind of brings home the reality, as well as, you know, I have a lot of mixed feelings. Very, very excited to be here. You know, something that I did my PhD in Tenerife on the Las Cañadas caldera, and Canarian volcanology is something I'm very passionate about. So to be here, witness this event, but also you can see the devastating effects it has on the Canarian people here.
That's a really great point. I think we've got a couple more questions, but I just don't know if we've got any questions in the chat yet.
No questions for Pamela yet, no. So if you've just joined us, we're here with 2014 geo-intern Pamela, who actually worked here in La Palma, monitoring the volcanic activity here. So if you have any questions about being a geo-intern, her thoughts, her reactions to coming back here, then please just pop them in the comments and we're more than happy to ask them.
I actually have a few questions for you guys. So obviously you were working on Tenerife. I was following your experience in GeoTenerife. So what was this like happening during your intern?
Yeah, it was a bit. I mean, if you'd have told me at the start of the internship, 4 or 5 weeks ago, that this would happen, I wouldn't have believed you. I was aware that this, La Palma was the most active island in the Canary Islands. I didn't realise quite how active. So I think it was literally maybe a week before it erupted, we started hearing about the seismic storms, and we were still, quite sceptical. No one really knew what was going to happen, and then it was really sort of a couple of days before the eruption that we started thinking, actually, hey, hold on, this might happen. And yeah, it was very surreal still, sort of being in the field in Tenerife sort of all day, knowing this was going on.
Wanting to get there.
At the same time, yeah. So we made I think we made a very quick decision.
We did.
That we could come out here and we could get some real value out of being here, and provide help by telling local stories and reporting on the event. So yeah, we just knew it was such an opportunity to be a part of the reporting and the help. So
yeah, I think what was also quite interesting is that the first 2 weeks of our internship we did science communication training.
Oh, perfect.
So like a lot of those skills we kind of had to utilise and put into practice so quickly, and I think, it kind of was a baptism by fire, just kind of putting those skills into practice, making sure that we get accurate information out sensitively, and making sure that we communicate to the rest of the world that there are people behind this eruption. And whilst it is something that can be quite exciting to see, it's always so important to remember the humanity behind it. So just on that, I wondered, how have you found if you use Twitter or social media, how have you found communicating about that? Did your experience as a geo-intern influence the way you communicated about the eruption at all?
So I try to stay away from posting too much information. There's already fantastic people like yourselves doing that are here doing that. Yeah, I have seen a lot of horrendous tweets and things that I've just kind of shaken my head at and think, tempted to report it. But yeah, I think it's the same as kind of any event. Twitter, people love to get traffic to their media. I think that's just the kind of nature of the beast, especially with something like this. But just knowing the right people and who to follow to get the correct information is really important.
And I think one thing that stuck with me is that during our 4 weeks we've learnt so much about the history of the Canarian Islands, and how much land means to the people of La Palma, and seeing this destruction is just so devastating. So could you maybe tell us about what you learnt about while staying here in La Palma, about the local history, and how that's influenced your reactions to the eruption?
Oh yeah, they're very much, we were talking to some people in Tazacorte yesterday, and it was they have been evacuated, their property has not been damaged, but that farmstead has been in their generation for from being in their family for generations, and they are understandably just traumatized by the lava coming towards it and thinking, is it going to be there? And we've seen people leaving yesterday with all of their kind of belongings in a truck, and I just can't imagine how that is on such a big scale here as well, local, relatively. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, so you said briefly about doing a PhD in Tenerife. So obviously you were a geo-intern in 2014, that was 7 years ago. So what have you been up to since being a geo-intern?
Yep, so I did my geo-intern as I was doing my undergraduate in earth sciences and geology at the University of Glasgow, and then I continued at the University of Glasgow doing my PhD project. So yep, I've been out to Tenerife for, I think, in total 6 months over the last 6 years, and kind of come to La Palma when I can, just because it's beautiful. I love to hike the volcanoes route, so yeah, I graduated from my PhD this year, and I'm now working as a practical class coordinator and course coordinator for short courses teaching geology access and evening courses.
And how did the experience of being a geo-intern help to get this going throughout your career?
Yeah, I think it was quite pivotal. I knew I wanted to do volcanology. I think that was the reason I, chose to study geology at university, and taking on the opportunity to come out here and experiencing all of the kind of things we were doing, and the importance of monitoring the volcanic hazards here and seeing all the spectacular geology that we did. And the last thing I did here really inspired me to I knew I wanted to stick with that afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. Is there any new questions that people have asked?
No, there's no new questions, but just to reiterate, if you have any questions for Pamela on what it was like to be here in 2014, what it's like to come back and see the eruption, or just any questions about being a geo-intern, please just pop them in the comment section and we'll happily ask them.
In the meantime, Ben, perhaps you might give us a little update on what's been going on behind us, because obviously we went through a bit of a quiet period earlier. I can't say the formal word, I'm not a scientist. Quiescent, is it? Quiescent.
So the eruptions changed quite dramatically over the last 12 hours or so. When we left the eruption last night, there was very impressive, intense Strombolian lava fountain. The lava flows are very active, moving sort of faster than they have been over the past few days. But then when we came this morning, we'd seen that the tremor had decreased overnight, sort of into the early hours of the morning. In fact, when we got here, there was no emission from the central vent. There was just degassing, and it stayed like that for a couple of hours. And people started speculating, is this the end of the eruption? Which we say no. It's you cannot tell when the eruption, end of the eruption is going to be. You just have to sort of wait and see. And then, sure enough, a couple of hours ago now, the main cone cleared and reactivated with sort of an ash-rich plume like the one you see behind us, and it's just sort of been fluctuating in intensity since then.
So it's really interesting actually, because I think one of the things that happens is that words get lost in translation. So some of the media or some of the outlets have been saying that there was a parón of the volcano, and some people might have translated that as a stop, a definitive stop, when in fact in Spanish it means a pause. And so this is one of the reasons why we're doing the work that we're doing here. And the other reason is, Ben, I just want to talk, just ask you about the advice that you gave Alexis before he went onto all the various national media, which was a fantastic piece of advice, because you were saying we mustn't let our guard down. Just because people are suddenly saying, the volcano stopped, we can all go back to normal. That's not the case, is it?
No, exactly. We don't know what the volcano is going to do. We do not have the certainty, and in cases like this, no matter what we see in front of us and from the signals, whatever they may suggest, you know, it's always, we have to, you know, err on the side of caution. It's much better to, you know, say we're not sure what's happening with the eruption, and admit that and be transparent, you know, keep the population vigilant, rather than, you know, coming out with these, you know, speculations and predictions, because, you know, if you know, as soon as the local population hear, oh, they think the eruption's over, you know, that causes such a change in behaviour and in people's attitudes. And of course, you know, if tragedy occurs and that such a prediction is wrong, then the blood's on the hands of the people who've made that in the first place. So it's just, you know, we just have to exercise caution, not get caught up, you know, in the moment, and remember this is still a very risky, you know, highly active volcano.
So as we've been saying on social media, if you're on La Palma, please don't go anywhere near the eruption site. Don't approach the lava. You know, stay away, and very much giving the message which we've done from day one: listen to the official channels for advice. So at 112 Canarias, at Cab La Palma, all over social media, we've been indicating what the emergency services and the official outlets are, just so you can keep an eye on the advice. Now, unbelievably, guys, this morning, again, we were asked about whether Cumbre Vieja was going to collapse and this whole tsunami was going to wipe out New York. So as we've got you here, I know it's something we may address later on, but Pam, what's your take on that? Because people here, I have to say, who I've spoken to, from all walks of life, can't believe that away from here we're still talking about this.
Oh yeah, I think, it's still a question I get asked a lot of, you know, my family, oh, you know, is this true, is this going to happen? I posted some pictures yesterday and my messages, that was the same question. And I think we know that you know, where to find the kind of debunking of this theory. You know, can we say anything is beyond the realm of possibility? No, but with the evidence that we have,
people up and frighten them
no,
about
of course not, because we could. Where do you end the line? Where do you draw the line with predicting the uncertain? But no, it's highly unlikely, and especially all the great work that they're doing to monitor London. There's absolutely no evidence for it with this eruption.
Thank you, Pam. That's really helpful.
Could you tell us a bit more about the research that you did here in 2014? I guess some of the methods that you use and how that work and the results that you got can tell us about, you know, monitoring volcanoes and inform.
Yeah, so it was part of a kind of ongoing volcanic hazards program from Involcan. I think the years after me were also involved in this, and we were measuring the activity all the way along the Cumbre Vieja ridge, measuring CO2 flux and helium radon gases by means of soil diffuse degassing, and the results of that are published in Volcan.
So what type of things is, you mentioned CO2 flux, so what can that tell us about the state of the volcano? Or
yeah, we can measure the flux. Does it increase as a precursor to the eruption? I'm going to be honest, it's a long time since that's not my expertise. It's not what I've been doing. I'm a physical volcanologist, so it was all very long time ago. So maybe if you are interested, I would get in touch with Involcan, or maybe you guys, if some of the other volcanic hazards geo-interns may be more up to speed on that.
Excellent.
Do we have any more questions?
No, we don't have any more questions. So maybe just to round up, could you give us some advice for any future geo-interns, any future students who might want to apply to geo-intern, and for those who want to follow in your footsteps, I guess, and follow a similar career path?
Yeah, well, I would say jump at it if you can. There is funding, support, and things that can help you out. I was able to secure some to help me attend back in 2014. if if the opportunity arises, I would say go for it. I'm sure you guys would say the same. It's a really valuable experience. Especially if it happens during your intern, I think a really valuable experience.
And do you have any final comments on the eruption or any messages that you'd like to send out or anything?
No, yeah, thank you for having me, and yeah, I'm going to maybe turn my chair now. Thank you very much.